Hey guys, I have another knife for you here today. This one is on the TBC Trevor Customs LEXK, which is the large version of his pretty popular EXK. This one right here is a titanium frame lock, non-contoured version of the LEXK, and with the sheep's foot blade. And let's go ahead and take a look at it. So to start off, let's take a look at the measurements of the knife. We have a knife that has a 3 1/4 inch blade that is a little bit under 7 3/4 overall length. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weight here. Now, the weight of the knife is 4.1, I would say 4.1, 4.2 ounces, which equates to, let's see here, 117 grams. So a fairly light knife, I would say, kind of in that middle range there. In terms of size, though, it is actually around the exact same size as a Shirogorov Neon Zero. Now, personally, I would say that the Neon is in the smaller size of knives relative to the Shirogorov lineup, but you know, the EXK, which I had previously reviewed, definitely was a small knife compared to Shirogorov knives. So this knife being a step up only makes sense that it's going to be in that same size range as the Neon Zero. Now, taking a look at the blade, like the EXK that I had reviewed earlier, this one has the sheep's foot blade, which I absolutely love. This profile is very well done. I love the swedge here up top. The jimping on the blade is very usable and extends quite far back as it's a front flipper. The satin finishing on it is, again, like the EXK that I reviewed earlier, has a couple of quirks. You can see there's a little bit of grit here. You can definitely tell that it's a hand satin finish. Overall, I think it's very well executed. But you can see here you have that radial polishing on the blade flats. I'm not really sure if that's part of the finishing process, but the fact that I see it on both this LEXK and the EXK that I reviewed previously makes me think that it definitely is standard fare for finishing the blades. Now, one thing I did notice about the secondary bevels, there's a little bit of hazing here, and I've seen that on knives that are sharpened with multiple grits. I'm not sure if that's the story here, but as you can see on the secondary bevel, there's a little bit of hazing here on the satin finish. I just thought that was interesting. There's a good shot of it. The grind is very even, and also the swedge as well. That's very important, I think, especially on swedges, since that's something that you can kind of see when the blade is closed. So excellent execution there on the grinds. Moving back to the handle, you can see that the handle is done in bead blasted titanium. This is slab titanium. It's completely flat here with some chamfering on the edges, of course. There is a blue anodized titanium pivot collar with these 4 diagonally machined in lines here that do give a little bit of grip actually when you're holding the knife in a natural position right here. The lock side has these same 4 diagonal slots and the pivot collar as well. Compared to the EXK that I reviewed in my previous video, where it seemed like the pivot collar was acting as the lock bar overstop, this LEXK does seem to have a screwed in lock bar insert where the insert acts as the overstop. So comparing the EXK, at least the one that I had, to this LEXK, it seems that this knife, instead of having, titanium on steel lockup, it does have steel on steel lockup, with the over travel being part of the insert itself instead of the pivot collar. I'm not actually sure. I definitely do like the fact that it does have a steel lock bar insert, but personally I would feel that, you know, having the large pivot collar on the log side would go well with the large handle on the knife. Not sure if the LEXK was the, you know, first iteration. I mean, I guess it would have to be the second knife that came out, since it's the LEXK. But I digress. Moving on to the clip, you can see we have pretty much the same exact clip as the EXK. I think this clip functions pretty well. It's a very simple design, as you can see here. And there's also some vertical striations, which horizontal striations, which match the overall straight design of the clip. Again, the clip is milled and functions very well. Very strong retention, but as you can see here, there's a very generous ramp, both putting on and clipping on and removing the clip as well. So no issues here with retention. The screws themselves, as you can see here, they're kind of rounded off on the ends. I've seen this with some other Polish makers. Really nice to see the screws being given this kind of attention. But I do wish they would go through the entire handle at least. As you can see here, they're kind of recessed here. And I think that doesn't give like the best overall look. Taking a look on here, we have the back spacer, which is fairly flush. You can still feel there's a little bit of a protrusion or recess here in the back spacer. It's blue anodized, just like the rest of the accents on the knife. Let's see what else we have here. There is no internal milling, although I have seen on his Instagram there are new versions of his knives that do have some light internal milling. But overall, the action, I think, is the most important part and why people are really buying these front flippers. And Trevor Berger is making a front flipper that is no exception on that front. The action is absolutely amazing. These things are very well dialed in, and the detent is a proper detent. No blade flopping out here on this front flipper. You know, I personally haven't had very much experience with front flippers before these knives, yet I was able to pick it up and be able to flip it naturally in a couple of minutes. And I mean, I'm left-handed, even as a righty, still have pretty much no problem flipping this knife. The action is completely glass, and it is amazing. I mean, I think that the fact that it's riding on, you know, titanium with ceramic bearings is really giving this really smooth feel. And unfortunately, though, when you take apart the knife, you can see that the bearings have definitely worn a fairly deep track into the bearing, into the handle surface. Personally, I would like to have steel washers backing those ceramic bearings, especially if the bearings are ceramic and not steel. However, whether or not, you know, it seems like titanium work hardens, and really just, I guess, if I had one of these myself, then I would be taking a look and see how far that bearing wear has progressed. By the way, this knife is on loan by a friend, so I really appreciate that. Should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video. But again, personally, I would like to see how that goes, especially if I'm exerting any lateral blade force. It's really nice to have those washers back in the knives. It's something that Shurgorov has addressed, and which is why their newer knives have these washers behind. But I'm not sure if that lack of washers is contributing to that smooth feel, or if it's just the tolerances in the overall machining. But again, the action of this knife is amazing. And the detent is a proper detent, which is something I think many front flippers fail to get right. I know some of Bull's newer knives have a stronger detent, which is good, but there's been too many front flipper knives that I've handled where the detent is, I think, unsatisfactory in retaining the knife, even past a simple, you know, flick of the knife. The blade will just flop out, which is something you don't want in a knife that you're going to be carrying in your pocket. But overall, the blade profile is fairly thin, actually. I'm going to take a look at the measurement here. I know I should have measured this previously before, but let's see, we're looking at 3 millimeters of blade thickness. So it's a very slicey blade. No issues there with performance, and I think overall in the size range, which everybody seems to like, that 3.5 to 3.25 inch, with a very slicey profile, with a very exceptional action, makes it a great knife on all fronts. From the fidget tool to something that's very usable, something that's not too crazy, that you won't mind getting worn in, especially with these bead blasted handles that resist wear very well. So overall, just a very well executed knife. And personally, again, I didn't know Trevor Burger very much before I had these knives sent in for me to take a look at, but definitely on my radar now, and looking to hopefully own one in the future. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time.